Have you ever prayed without knowing why, only to later realize that your life might have depended on it? That's what happened to John and his family. It was a quiet Wednesday night. Power was out. The streets were still. No drama, no noise, nothing unusual. But around 8:30 p.m., John's wife, Busola, felt something strange. She couldn't shake the unease. It wasn't even fear. It wasn't a dream. It was like something was standing right behind her, urging her to gather everyone and pray. She told her husband, and at first, he didn't take it seriously. But when their 6-year-old son randomly walked into the room crying and saying, "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" everything changed at that point. That night, they prayed as if their life depended on it. And as they later found out, it truly did. This is that real story. John and Busola were the kind of couple who didn't make noise about their faith. They prayed, yes, they believed in God, but they weren't the dramatic type. John worked with a financial firm in town. Every weekday, he returned around 9 p.m. But that particular Wednesday, everything felt off. Around 4 p.m., a last-minute meeting he was supposed to attend was suddenly cancelled. In fact, his boss, who was normally strict about closing hour, asked him to go home early that very day since everywhere was quiet and there wasn't really much to do around the office. So John was surprised, but he didn't argue. That was his boss talking. So he packed up and hit the road. No traffic, just a smooth, strange ride home. So he arrived home before 6:30 p.m. It was almost 2.5 hours earlier than normal. So back at home, his wife Busola had a strange heaviness all day. She couldn't explain it. The kids were fine, nothing alarming. But there was something in the air, a tension. She couldn't even cook without checking the windows, turning off the gas repeatedly, and double-checking the doors. So by 8:30 p.m., she had had enough. She told John, "Babe, I know this will sound weird, but we need to pray. Now, as a family." John was tired but agreed, of course. They called the children, the 6-year-old Dayo and the 9-year-old Damilola. Dayo came out, rubbing his eyes and murmured, "Mommy, I had a bad dream. Our house was shaking." That was all it took. They all sat in the living room, candlelight flickering, and their fan was barely rotating on low voltage. So at first it was the usual Thanksgiving, safety, provision kind of prayer. But suddenly, Busola started praying with the unusual fire. Her words weren't even hers anymore. She said something like, "Lord, cancel every premature death. Send your angels around this house. We don't know what's coming, but you do. We need your protection. We speak protection. No fire, no accident, no sudden tragedy." Even John was surprised at his wife's intensity, and then he found himself also praying deeper than usual. They prayed for almost an hour, not knowing they were fighting a battle already in motion. So the next morning, the first thing they heard was a loud bang a few streets away from them. So there was a fuel tanker that had fallen and exploded along that route John usually took home. 11 cars were burnt beyond recognition. In fact, 2 people from John's office died, one of whom normally left the same time as him. But John had left early the day before. The same time Busola started feeling strange. So later that day, another neighbor visited with trembling hands. Their shared compound had experienced a small fire that started from a faulty generator behind the house. And guess what? That generator was directly behind John's room. But John's generator, the one right next to it, refused to come on the night before for the first time in weeks. If it had, the flame would have spread to their flat before anyone noticed. So these were 2 near-death experiences in just one night and one prayer session that stood in between. Busola later said, "I've never prayed like this before in my entire life. It was like something else took over." Even their 6-year-old son kept saying he saw someone in white in the room that night. They all laughed it off at first, but deep down they believed in him. The family didn't post about it on social media. They didn't even tell many people. In fact, they didn't even go to church for Thanksgiving. But to this day, when you visit John's home, there is a wooden plaque hanging by the door. It simply says, "When you feel the nudge to pray, don't ignore it." You see, sometimes prayer is the only defense between you and the unknown. This wasn't just a lucky night for John's family. It was a divine intervention. Okay, we've come to the end of today's story. If this story touched you, please subscribe to this channel. Like this video if you believe in the power of prayer. And let me ask you one question. Have you ever had a moment where something told you to pray and later you realized why? If the answer is yes, drop your experience in the comments below. I'd like to hear from you. Until next time I come your way, stay blessed and stay safe. And always remember, be nice to people. Bye for now.